Almost everyone's New Year's resolutions fail, 99% according to Forbes Health. Those ambitious health goals you set every January likely won't make it past March. So why do we keep setting the same health goals year after year? It's a cycle that feels almost ritualistic at this point. January comes around, and we promise ourselves that this time will be different. This time we'll stick with the diet. This time we'll make it to the gym 5 days a week. This time we'll finally become that healthy person we've always wanted to be. The pattern becomes clear when we examine what actually happens. We start with incredible enthusiasm, overhauling our kitchen, tossing out bad foods, buying new workout clothes, and committing to an ambitious training schedule. We download tracking apps and envision complete transformation, riding high on our newfound motivation. For a while it works. Those first few days feel amazing, a burst of hope and possibility. But around day 10, week 3, or month 2, that initial spark begins to dim. The workouts feel harder, the meal prep becomes tedious, our energy wanes, and gradually, almost imperceptibly, we drift back to our old habits. This predictable outcome stems directly from how our brains function. Scientists call it willpower depletion or ego depletion. Psychologist Roy Baumeister introduced this concept, suggesting that willpower operates like a battery that drains with repeated use. Each time you resist temptation, make a difficult choice, or push through a challenging task, you draw from a limited reserve of mental energy. Once depleted, your ability to make good decisions significantly decreases. Imagine starting your day with a full willpower battery. Throughout the day, you use some charge to avoid hitting snooze, choose a healthy breakfast, focus at work, remain patient with difficult people, and drive home safely. By evening, your willpower battery runs nearly empty. Adding a challenging exercise routine and dietary overhaul demands more from your brain's executive function than it can reasonably provide. Research confirms that motivation naturally fluctuates day to day. No one feels consistently motivated all the time, making consistency impossible when health changes depend solely on motivation or abundant willpower. Our environments create additional obstacles. A kitchen stocked with processed foods, friends who meet at restaurants with unhealthy options, an inconvenient gym commute, or a mentally exhausting job. These factors create friction, working against your goals. The common patterns of failure are recognizable. Crash diets restricting entire food groups leading to eventual binging, extreme workout programs causing soreness, injury, or exhaustion, and complete lifestyle overhauls requiring simultaneous changes to multiple habits. The alternative isn't more motivation or stronger willpower. In fact, the solution has almost nothing to do with motivation at all. Here's the payoff. 99% of New Year's health resolutions fail because they're designed as events, not systems. When you frame health improvement as a dramatic event, a 30-day challenge, a complete diet overhaul, a fitness transformation, you automatically set yourself up for the willpower depletion problem. Events require constant conscious effort. They have start and end dates. They depend on sustained motivation. And when motivation inevitably dips, the entire project collapses. This is why you can follow a diet perfectly for 6 weeks, then revert completely to old habits when life gets stressful. Systems work differently. They function even when motivation is low. They become automatic over time, requiring less conscious effort. They accommodate the natural fluctuations in willpower we all experience. The solution isn't finding more willpower, it's building a better system. In the next section, we'll explore exactly what these systems look like and how they function according to the latest behavior science research. But I can tell you right now, they look nothing like the health approaches most people try. What if the secret to lasting health changes has nothing to do with motivation at all? What if the entire approach we've been taught about health improvement fundamentally misunderstands how human behavior actually works? Where willpower ultimately fails us, systems thinking succeeds. This approach looks at the interconnected components that either support or undermine our habits. Instead of relying on isolated bursts of motivation, systems thinking examines the entire ecosystem surrounding our behaviors. Your daily health choices don't exist in isolation. They're influenced by your physical environment, social connections, emotional state, established routines, and dozens of other factors that interact in complex ways. This network creates a system that either facilitates or hinders healthy choices. This systems-based approach directly addresses the limitations of willpower we discussed earlier. While motivation assumes that with enough inspiration and determination you'll consistently make healthy choices, science tells us our decisions are largely influenced by our environment and established habits, factors operating outside our conscious awareness. The foundation of any effective health system is what scientists call the habit loop. Charles Duhigg, the Pulitzer Prize-winning journalist, explains this concept in his book, The Power of Habit. Like a well-oiled machine, this loop has three essential components: a cue that triggers the behavior, the routine itself, and the reward that reinforces it. For example, feeling stressed, cue, might lead you to eat cookies, routine, which provides temporary comfort, reward. Or, seeing your running shoes by the door, cue, might trigger your morning jog, routine, giving you energy and satisfaction, reward. The habit loop forms the backbone of successful systems because it explains how behaviors become automatic. Understanding this loop allows you to design systems that make healthy behaviors nearly effortless. Every time you repeat an action, you strengthen the neural pathways associated with that behavior. Scientists call this process chunking, where the brain groups small actions together to create automatic behaviors. The basal ganglia, a region regulating routine behaviors, plays a crucial role in this process. With sufficient repetition, these neural pathways become so strong that the behavior requires minimal, conscious effort, like driving home without thinking about every turn or brushing your teeth without mental instruction. Successful health changes eventually happen below our conscious awareness. They become ingrained behaviors performed almost automatically, without depleting precious willpower reserves. Consider these examples of effective health systems. A person placed pre-cut vegetables at eye level in their refrigerator, making them the easiest snack option available. Their vegetable consumption tripled without requiring additional motivation. How small is too small when it comes to establishing new health habits? Most of us assume we need to make meaningful changes to see results. A 30-minute workout, a complete meal plan overhaul, 8 hours of sleep every night without exception. But what if I told you these goals are actually too large to succeed with consistently? Let me introduce you to the concept of the minimum viable action, or MVA, the smallest possible step you can take toward your health goal. An action so tiny it almost seems pointless. Yet research shows these micro-actions create lasting change more effectively than ambitious targets. This runs counter to how most of us think about progress. We've been conditioned to believe that significant results require significant effort, and that small actions are worthless. This mindset explains why we repeatedly set ambitious health goals, and why we repeatedly fail to maintain them. The counterintuitive truth is that the smaller your initial action, the higher your long-term success rate will be. When you make an action small enough, you bypass the brain's natural resistance to change and energy conservation mechanisms. You slip under the radar of your own excuses. Consider Sarah, who tried for years to establish a running routine with ambitious 3-mile goals. She'd start strong, but abandon the habit within weeks. Finally, she tried a different approach. Her only obligation was to put on her running shoes. That's it. On the first day she put them on, felt silly, and took them off. But by day 3, once the shoes were on, she found herself stepping outside just to get some air. By week 2, these small steps had evolved into regular neighborhood jogs without the pressure that killed her previous attempts. A practical framework for identifying these minimal first steps is the 2-minute rule. Any new habit should take less than 2 minutes to perform. Want to establish a meditation practice? Start with just 2 minutes daily. Want to read more? Commit to a single page before bed. This rule makes the barrier to entry extraordinarily low, allowing you to maintain consistency even on your worst days. If you want to improve your diet, begin by preparing a single vegetable each day, not eating it, just preparing it. The preparation makes consumption more likely, but removing the pressure makes the habit easier to maintain. Want to drink more water? Start with drinking 1 glass before your morning coffee. This habit stacking approach links your new behavior to an existing one, making it easier to remember and perform. These tiny actions create powerful momentum through 2 mechanisms. First, they often naturally expand once started. Second, they begin to shift your identity. Each completion reinforces the belief that you are someone who exercises or someone who eats vegetables. These identity shifts drive long-term behavior more effectively than motivation. They transform actions from things you do to characteristics of who you are. Over time, these small actions compound. The person who started by putting on running shoes might eventually complete a 5K. The person who prepared one vegetable daily might gradually transform their entire approach to nutrition. If you want to improve multiple health areas, where should you start? Most of us approach health improvements with grand ambitions. We decide to fix our sleep, overhaul our diet, start exercising regularly, and practice meditation, all at the same time. This all-or-nothing mentality seems logical. After all, these areas are connected, so why not address them simultaneously? The problem is that research consistently shows this approach backfires. A study from University College London found that when people try to establish multiple new habits at once, their success rate drops dramatically. Each new habit requires attention, energy, and consistent execution until it becomes automatic. When you divide your limited resources across multiple behaviors, none receives enough focus to truly take root. Like juggling too many balls, they all eventually fall. A more effective approach centers on what researchers call keystone habits. Foundational behaviors that create positive spillover effects in other areas of your life. Think of these habits as the cornerstone of a building. Just as this critical stone supports the entire structure, certain health behaviors create a foundation that naturally strengthens all your other improvements with minimal additional effort. To identify these keystone habits, we need to understand the four major categories of health improvement: sleep, nutrition, movement, and stress management. These areas form an interconnected system where changes in one domain naturally affect the others. When you improve your sleep quality, you have more energy for physical activity. Your hunger hormones regulate more effectively, and your stress resilience increases. Similarly, regular movement improves sleep quality, reduces stress, and often leads to better nutritional choices. This interconnectedness means that strategically choosing where to start can create a cascade of positive effects. You can leverage these natural connections while only focusing on one habit at a time. Here's a simple decision framework to determine your personal highest leverage starting point. First, identify your biggest current health obstacle. Which area causes the most downstream problems in your life? If poor sleep leaves you too exhausted to exercise or prepare healthy meals, that's your bottleneck. Second, assess which area feels most accessible to you right now. The ideal starting point combines high leverage with low resistance. If improving sleep seems overwhelming but taking a daily walk feels doable, start with movement. Third, consider your personal history. Where have you had success in the past, even temporarily? Previous successes often indicate areas where you have fewer psychological barriers. Consider Maria, who struggled with multiple health issues until she focused solely on improving her sleep. Within weeks, she found herself naturally choosing healthier foods, having energy for light exercise and feeling more emotionally balanced, all cascading benefits from that single keystone habit. For most people, sleep and stress management create the strongest foundation for other improvements. When you're well-rested and emotionally regulated, making good decisions about nutrition and movement becomes significantly easier. After selecting your starting point, commit to establishing just one small habit using the minimum viable action framework we discussed earlier. Focus exclusively on this habit until it becomes automatic, typically between 18 to 254 days, according to research. Only then should you add a second habit, ideally one that complements your first success. This sequential approach prevents overwhelm while maximizing the positive spillover effects between habits. Now let's see how to implement this framework in your life with concrete examples that show how these principles translate into practical daily actions you can start today. We all fail at health goals not because we're lazy, but because we rely on motivation instead of systems. The solution isn't a grand transformation but small strategic changes that become automatic over time. What is the one tiny change you can commit to starting today? Choose a health area that matters most to you. Identify an action so small you could do it on your worst day, and commit to it daily for 2 weeks. As Wendy Wood's research confirms, lasting change comes from habit loops that become automatic. Remember, you don't rise to the level of your goals, you fall to the level of your systems. If you found this video helpful, please like, subscribe and share to someone you love. Thank you very much for watching.